coming to you once again live from Reach Souls Films Incorporated. This is Andrea Moses Pitts, founder and president of Reach Souls Films Incorporated. This is another Bible study video that I wanted to share with everyone this evening. And what I wanted to talk about this evening is follow Jesus no matter what. This is one of the things that we have to do in order to make it to heaven. We have to follow Jesus no matter what. True commitment. And the first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the lesson and the scripture. All of the scriptures that I'm going to be reading from this evening are going to be coming from the New International Version. And as I said many times before, please read and study these scriptures for yourself. And the first set of scriptures that I have this evening is going to be coming from Exodus chapter 13. And I'm going to be reading from verses 6 through 9. Starting at verse 6. It says this: For 7 days eat bread made without yeast, and on the 7th day hold a festival to the Lord. Verse 7. Eat unleavened bread during those 7 days, nothing with yeast in it is to be seen among you, nor shall any yeast be seen anywhere within your borders. On that day tell your son, I do this because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. This observance will be for you like a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead that the law of the Lord is to be on your lips. For the Lord brought you out of Egypt with his mighty hand. Now, in these particular verses right here, what makes you, or what marks you as a follower of Jesus? The way you raise your children, demonstrate your love for others. And what I mean, demonstrate your love for others. What I mean by that is telling them the truth from Scripture so they won't die and go to hell. Living devotion to Jesus. These actions will leave visible marks for all to see. While national groups are marked by customs and traditions, us as followers of Jesus are marked by loving one another. And again, what I mean by saying that is that telling others the truth coming from Scripture so they won't die and go to hell. And the next scripture I'm going to be reading is going to be coming from Judges chapter 13, and I'm going to be reading verse 5. And let me see, here it is, right here, and it says this: because you will conceive and give birth to a son, no razor may be used on his head, because the boy is to be a Nazarite, set apart to God from birth. He will begin the deliverance of Israel from the hands of the Philistines. In this verse right here, Samson was to be a Nazarite, a person who took a vow to be set apart for God's service. A Nazarite was vow sometimes temporary, but in Samson's case it was for life. As a Nazarite, Samson could not cut his hair, touch a dead body, or drink anything with alcohol in it. As long as and as long as the Israelites remained set apart for God, the nation thrived. Um, but they fell into terrible sin when they ignored God. But that's one of the things that we cannot do. If we call ourselves true followers of Jesus, we have to follow him no matter what. True commitment. We have to go all the way with him to the end. We have to go all the way to the end. But the next set of scriptures that I'm going to be reading is going to be coming from Matthew chapter 8, verses 19 and 20. And I have them right here, starting at verse 19. It says this. Then a teacher of the law came to him and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, "Foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." Now, in these particular two verses right here, following Jesus is not always comfortable. No, it is not. It means great cost and sacrifice, with no earthly rewards. Following Jesus will cost you popularity. It will. Friendships, family, leisure time, or treasured habits. The cost of following Jesus is high, but the cost of being his disciple and going to the end with him is even higher. And my question to everyone this evening is, are you still willing to follow Jesus no matter what? Because that's the question. Are you willing to follow Jesus no matter what? But the next verse is going to be coming from Matthew chapter 16, and I'm going to be reading verse 24. And I'm going to turn over there real quick. And in verse 24, it says this. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone will come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me." In this particular verse right here, when Jesus used this picture of his followers taking up their crosses to follow him, what Jesus meant in this verse is true commitment. And the disciples knew what he meant. They knew exactly what Jesus meant. Following Jesus therefore means a true commitment, the risk of death, and no turning back. And are we still willing to follow Jesus no matter what, even when it comes to the risk of death? Are we still willing to follow Jesus? That's the question. But the next two verses are going to be coming from Mark chapter 3, and I'm going to be reading verses 7 and 8. And I have them right here, starting at verse 7. It says this. Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the lake, and a large crowd from Galilee followed. When they heard all he was doing, many people came to him from Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, and the regions across the Jordan and around Tyre, and Sidon. Okay. While Jesus was drawing fire from the religious leaders, he was gaining great popularity among the people. And some were curious, some sought healing, some wanted evidence to use against him, and others wanted to know if Jesus truly was the Messiah. Today, crowds still follow Jesus, and they come and they still come for the same variety of reasons. What is your primary reason for following Jesus? That's another big question. What is your main primary reason for following Jesus? And the next verse I'm going to be reading from is John chapter 1, and I'm going to be reading verse 38. And in verse 38 it says this. Turning around, Jesus saw them following and asked, "What do you want?" They said, "Rabbi," which means teacher, "where are you staying?" Following Christ is not enough. We must follow him for the right reasons. To follow Christ for our own purposes would be asking Christ to follow us, which that's wrong. To align with us to support and advance our cause, not his. And we must examine our motives for following him. Are we seeking his glory or ours? Follow Jesus no matter what, moment by moment. And even doing his will in his work is difficult. And follow him, and then follow Jesus no matter what. Even if the future looks bleak, still follow Jesus no matter what. Still follow Jesus. Still follow Jesus no matter what. And the next verse that I'm going to be reading from is going to be coming from Luke chapter 5 and verse 11. And I'm going to turn over there real quick. And let's see. In Luke chapter 5 verse 11, and it says this. So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything, and followed him. Now, there are two requirements for coming to Jesus. For coming to Jesus. Like Peter, we must recognize our own sinfulness. Then, like these fishermen, we must realize that we can't save ourselves. And if we know that we need help, and if we know that Jesus is the only one who can help us, we will be ready to leave everything and follow him. And I know a lot of people are not ready to just give it up and follow him. I know a lot of people are not ready to give it up and follow him. And as I've said many times before, Give your life to Jesus. And I'll say it again. And I'll keep saying it over and over and over and over again, as many times as it takes. Follow, get Jesus into your life before it is too late. Follow Jesus no matter what. And the next verse is going to be coming from John chapter 7. And I'm going to be reading from verse 7. And starting in verse 7, it says this. The world cannot hate you, but it hated me because I testify that what it does is evil. Now, because the world hated Jesus, we who follow him can expect that many people will hate us as well. Oh yes. If circumstances are going too well, we need to ask ourselves, are we following Jesus the way we should? You know, we can be grateful when life goes well, but we must make sure it is not at the cost of following Jesus half-heartedly or not at all. Or just to say, if things or if things are going too well, or if you don't have any problems right now, you probably should ask yourselves, am I following Jesus the way I should? You know. But this is the second Bible study video that I wanted to share with everyone this evening. I just hope and pray that this Bible study video has blessed your life in some kind of way. I really do. And I love you all. I really do. I love you all, and may Jesus bless you.